week, a Home Affairs-led law enforcement operation raided a Chinese-owned factory that was keeping 51 people in what's been described as slave-like conditions. Acting on information provided by a whistleblower, the Home Affairs Inspectorate visited this plastic factory in Alberton, but in fact they were refused entry by security officials. Authorities later on returned to the property with the police and managed to make some arrests. Let's speak more about this now, bring in Home Affairs Minister Dr. Motsoaledi, who joins us via our video link this morning. Minister, it's great to have you on the program. Thank you so much for making time. Perhaps let's begin by you just describing to us the conditions in which, I think it's, the 51 people were found during this raid.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning to you and good morning to the viewers and listeners out there. Indeed, yes, it was something that was shocking. After getting a tip-off, Home Affairs immigration officials went to that factory in Alberton on Monday evening, but they refused entry. And it's clear that they were refused entry because the people inside that factory were locked in. They may not go out. We understand that they work in that factory, they sleep there and do everything there and are never allowed to go out. So when the Home Affairs officials were refused entry, they came back the following day with South African Police Service, members of Johannesburg Metro, but they also brought along the private security industry regulatory authority. And they also brought in labor inspectors because it was clear that the working conditions there, there's something wrong with them. And that's why they arrested these 51 individuals. And the following day, they arrested the Chinese manager of that factory. But the owner, who is also Chinese, is still at large, and the law enforcement agencies are looking for him. The other people appeared in court yesterday.
Sure. Now, several questions come up. I mean, top of mind for me is that typically in these kind of scenarios, the people who are involved, the victims, let's call them, are not from South Africa. Was this the case also in this instance?
Yes. They were from Zimbabwe, Malawi, and 4 were from China itself.
And again, I wonder how much of your investigation involves asking questions around any kind of trafficking that's taking place.
Well, there's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way there won't be an investigation about that. We're happy that it was a joint law enforcement operation because the authorities who investigate human trafficking will have to come in because finding people in such conditions where they are not even allowed out, there's a very, very, very high possibility that they actually might have been trafficked, and that definitely is being investigated.
For people watching, they might be confused around why these 51 people are among those who've been arrested in a context where they might be victims, if you like, of a greater syndicate.
Well, they have to be because they've got no documentation to be in South Africa.
Right.
What will then happen is, during the investigation, if they are trafficked, there are laws in the country about what happened with people who have been trafficked. And those laws will be applied. But for now, they'll have to be arrested because, as I'm saying, nobody is sure exactly how they appeared there, whether they were cooperating or what happened and how they actually arrived in South Africa.
I wonder how much you've been able to get from the 51 people themselves around the circumstances that brought them to that particular factory. Has there been any discussions around why they're actually there, how they got there, how long they've been there? That kind of information?
Well, that will be part of the interrogation or interview by immigration officials, but as well as labor officials and South African Police Service, as I've already said. And because some are the security, like the people who refused them in, that's why we brought the private security industry regulatory authority. All those are authorities who will sit, interrogate or interview and get the facts.
The concern, of course, now is around how widespread this is. I mean, this is just one factory with 51 people. And if they were able to get away with this, given how many people were involved, it does raise suspicions about this kind of situation existing in other factories. How widespread was this law enforcement raid, as it were, given what you've been able to find?
Indeed. That's why if you look at our annual performance plan this year, which we submitted to Parliament, we promised that because we used to conduct about 250 raids into factories and roadblocks per annum. This year we are doubling them, and we will classify factories and say we are now going to agriculture, we're now going to this and that, we're now going to this and that. But we still rely more, as it was in this case, on members of the public who observe this and give us tips. People will stay in such areas because they will observe them more than when our immigration officials go to do these raids, because they can only do them at one place at a time.
Of course, what this also points to, Minister, is something you've conceded several times, and that's around just how borders our own borders are. If we were able to, for instance, prevent people at the point of contact at our borders, something like this is much easier to circumvent. It certainly does add a whole lot more urgency to sorting out that issue too.
Oh yes, indeed. It does add that agency. That's why we are working around the clock with the new commissioner of borders, of the Border Management Authority, to make sure that at least the first group of 200 border guards are deployed. And in the next, I think it's early in July where we'll go to the borders to launch that. But today at 10 o'clock, between 10 and 1, I am going to be chairing an interministerial committee meeting of 9 ministers who are involved at the borders. I'll be chairing it today. It's a statutory meeting about borders, which meets 4 times a day, and we'll be discussing these issues. It has got 9 ministers in it in terms of the act. That's the Minister of Defense, the Minister of Police, the Minister of State Security, the Minister of Transport, the Minister of Health, the Minister of Agriculture, the Minister of Environment and Forestry, and myself. And we also have a technical team, which is chaired by the Commissioner, which consists of the DG from those ministries. Yes, so we are taking the issue at the borders very seriously, I must tell you. I forgot, we also have the Minister of Finance to see what's happening in terms of customs at the borders. So they will be meeting for 3 hours today, and this issue, as well as what happens at OR Tambo International Airport last week, Monday, when we arrested the 4 Pakistanis and Bangladeshi. These are the issues which are on our agenda, which are on our main, because we take them very serious.
Yeah, hopefully it's 3 hours well spent. Minister, thanks very much indeed for your time. Really do appreciate it. Home Affairs Minister there, Dr. Motsoaledi.